As promised, I'm back with my turntable. Don't go away. Hello everyone and welcome to Fat Guy Productions. I am Paul, coming to you as always from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I promised I would come back with my Fluance RT82 turntable and give you my opinion after having it set up and listen to it. And I promised I would show you how to set it up. We're going to do that today, so let's get busy. So, as promised, I said after unboxing the RT82, I would come back and take you through how I set it up. So I'm going to do that. But first, here we are. We've got the RT81. I love this thing. And I'm just looking at some of the features of the RT81. It has the 4 puck-style feet. It's as beautiful as the RT82. And underneath, it's got a few changes too. Yeah, it's a little dusty, but I've told you that it's really dusty in this room. That's why I have to keep the dust cover on my RT82, which kind of makes me sad because I would like to leave it off because, frankly, the turntable is just too beautiful. Anyhow, same control knob, same rubber mat for the platter. In fact, the platter looks identical to me, okay? I don't know if there is a difference or not, but it really looks identical. The big change is that the belt is on the outside of the RT82 and it's inside on the RT81, and you have to kind of use that little hole there to reach through and hook the belt up, which can be a little bit tricky. So not only is it a wonderful visual change on the RT82, it's absolutely easier to set up. Now, here is my the tone arm, and I had switched out from the Audio Technica cartridge. I put on a Ortophone head shell and Ortophone red, and you know, this has been a great turntable. So if money is a situation for you or whatever, don't shy away from this. But I tell you, you're going to see a lot about the RT82 today, and I think you're going to like it. So this room is filled with all sorts of bric-a-brac and stuff like that, and it's very hard to keep it dust-free. The windows don't seal. So the first thing we're going to do after removing the RT81 is break out the dusting wand. I'm going to just clean up a little bit where the turntable sits. I never pass up a chance like this. As you can see, I am still wearing the white gloves that Fluance graciously provided with the turntable. And when you see this turntable up close, you'll understand why, okay? Because it is just stunning, and I want it as clean as possible. I'm not going to put big slimy handprints all over it. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do is you want to get the plinth level. If the turntable isn't level, everything else is kind of a waste of time. It's just not going to be a good setup, okay? So you have to do this, and you have to do it first because everything else builds from this point. Now, Fluance was kind enough to include a small bubble level, and all you have to do is place it somewhere on your plinth, and then raise or lower one of the 3 feet until you get the bubble level. It's that simple. No high-tech stuff here. Just raise or lower until the bubble is right smack dab in the middle of the bubble level. Now just remember, every time you adjust one foot, it can impact another. So don't get frustrated, be patient, take your time, and get it right. Once I think I have it perfectly level, I will in fact take the bubble level and move it to different places on the plinth just to double check. And for me, I think this is the best I can do. I think I'm right on. I think I'm spot on here, but hey, maybe not, but it's going to have to do, because I don't think I can get it any better than this. So now the easy task of putting the platter on. All you do is take the platter, align it with the spindle, and just plop it on there. Well, you want to do it carefully because this thing is beautiful and you don't want to damage it in any way. So just kind of set it on there, and that's all there is to it. Now, this really isn't something you need to do unless perhaps you think that your platter is damaged in some form. I'm doing it for my own gratification. I'm just running a straight edge across the platter to see if it seems flat or how flat. And so far, so good. It looks like it's exactly what I would expect from Fluance. Again, this isn't something you need to do, but I have the bubble level, so why not check and see how level the platter is as well. Now there are all kinds of mats for platters. There's leather, and there's like a fabric type thing, and there's rubber. I've really liked the rubber platter mats, and so I'm happy with this. I won't be replacing it, and it just plops on. So now, the thing that I once thought was the 45 adapter made out of metal, but wasn't. Now that goes on, and it's just a little cover to dress up where the drive motor pops up through the plinth. It's a beautiful little piece, and it really just kind of sits down over there. There's two alignment arrows. There's one on the motor, and there's one inside the little cap. You just kind of line them up and set it on there. So now just hook the drive belt that comes pre-installed on the platter, pull it out, and stretch it over the drive motor. Now, I give it a couple spins, and what that'll do is it'll allow the belt to center itself on the platter. And hey, you're done with this step. Told you this was going to be easy. Now this really isn't part of the setup. It's just something I hadn't noticed before. And hey, come on. I was excited, all right? This thing really has me jazzed up, and I didn't see this. There's a little twist tie thingy that is holding the tone arm in its cradle. So I'm just going to untwist that, very gently pull it out. Now this will be really stupid sounding, but there's this little plastic sleeve on the tone arm that you have to remove. And for some reason, I guess I was just worried about damaging the turntable, so I didn't want to yank and crank on it too hard, and I was having a hard time getting it off. I finally had to get something to cut it away, but it is there. You got to get rid of it. My advice, just grab a pair of scissors or a little razor knife and slice it off. Okay, so I can go ahead and put the head shell and cartridge on, And this is as easy as it gets because it all comes connected. So all you do is push the two pieces together, and then there's a little locking ring on the tone arm, and you turn that until it's locked. Boom, done, easy. So, as I said, I have an Ortophone Red. I'm not sure if it will work with this turntable or not, but either way, I'm not going to do that right now because I want to review this and set it up the way it comes out of the box so you can be there with me. Later, if I do decide to try to change the head shell or the cartridge, I'll do a video about it and I'll share it with you. So now with the numbers on the counterweight facing the front of the turntable, go to the rear of the tone arm and just thread the counterweight on. Now I like to move it all the way forward, and when I set it, I can just go back from there. So, thread it on. You can do it your way, but that's just how I do it. Now with the counterweight on, I'll go ahead and pop on the dust cover. Like I said, I really wish, look how beautiful that turntable is. I wish I didn't need the dust cover, and it's not ugly or anything with the dust cover on. I just would love to be able to see the whole thing happening when I'm listening to my records. All right, well, anyhow, all of the parts are on. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect this to my receiver. Now, depending on the equipment that you have, you may have to have a preamp between the turntable and the receiver. I don't need one. My receiver has phono jacks and a built-in preamp. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the ground wire. Now there is a post in the back of the turntable for the ground wire. Just loosen it up, slide the prongs in between the screw and the turntable, and then tighten it down. Done. Then do the same thing with the ground post on your receiver. If you don't have a ground post on your receiver, you may not have a preamp, but you can still ground your turntable if you need to, simply by unscrewing one of the chassis screws and putting the ground wire in between that and the chassis and then tightening it back down. I didn't need to go that way. I had a post on both devices, so it was easy. Now I've just plugged in the little power brick, and now I'm sticking in the really, really thick, amazingly nice RCA cables. And that's all there is to this. Okay, now there is a switch for auto stop. I like to leave mine on. Sometimes I'll be listening to music and I'm busy and I can't get over there right away, and I like it to turn off if I can't. So I leave mine on. But that's all the connections on the back of the turntable. Now I'll just go ahead and position the turntable, and then I'll go ahead and finish the connections over on my receiver. Okay, with all my connections made between the turntable and the receiver, I can now go ahead and set the tone arm and the cartridge. So I'm going to start by balancing the tone arm. On the Fluance RT82, you don't need to change the height of the tone arm. What you're going to need to do is balance it. So I put it over the platter and I flip the cueing lever so that the tone arm will float free. Now the goal here is to just turn the counterbalance so that the tone arm with the head shell and the cartridge attached, what I want is I want it to just hover level. So if it drops down to the back like that, I need to move the weight forward. If it drops all the way down and touches the mat on the platter, I need to go the other direction. I don't want it touching the mat. I don't want it popping a wheelie. I want it to just almost magically float level above the turntable. a lot of the setup that you're going to have to do is very fine work, okay? Once you get into the ballpark, the slightest movement of the counterweights is going to impact whether it goes up, down, or floats, all right? So once you're in the ballpark, tiny, tiny movements. Okay, look at that. See, mine's floating really nice right now, and it looks level to me. So I think we're good here. Okay, so I'm really happy with that. Now we're going to go ahead and set the downforce, which is how much force is pushing down on the needle. Now, with this OM10 needle and cartridge, I'm supposed to have 1.5 of downforce. So the little number dial on your counterweight, it doesn't impact the weight. So you turn it to 0 without turning the whole counterbalance, okay? Just turn that little number disc. Once it's at 0, now you turn the entire counterweight until you get to 1.5. Okay? Your manual will have the proper setting for whatever you've got. Now, anti-skate, this is a really tough one. Match the setting of the downforce. So it's 1.5 on the tone arm, so it's going to be 1.5 on the anti-skate. All right, so just dial that in. And now I have the proper downforce, the proper anti-skate, and we can go ahead and align the cartridge. In the back of the instruction manual is a template that you need to align your cartridge. Now you can get these online too, and I'll put a link to a place where you can get them in the description below. But hey, Fluance gave you one, right? So you just cut it out, poke a hole where it shows for the spindle, and now what you're going to do is you're going to align the tip of the needle on the first point, and then there's a grid around that. And what we're looking for is we're looking for the cartridge itself to be aligned with that grid while the tip of the needle is on the center point. If it is all aligned, then what we'll do is we'll lift the tone arm and we'll go to the second center point. And we'll put the needle on the second center point and we'll check to see if the cartridge is aligned to the grid around that point. Now, in my case, it was spot on. It was perfect. I can't guarantee every turntable is going to come that way. You may have to adjust it. It's really simple. There are 2 screws in the top of the head shell. Slightly loosen them. You don't want it floppy, but you want to be able to move it, and just go back and forth between the 2 points, making sure that the cartridge itself is aligned to the grid. Once you're happy with it, take your little flathead screwdriver and just tighten those 2 screws back up, and boom, it's aligned. Okay? Now, I saved my little template, but I can print some online, and like I said, I'll put a link for that in the description below. And now you've adjusted your head shell. Now the final thing I'm going to do in my setup process is I'm going to check the RPMs of the turntable. So I have turned the turntable on to 33. I have it spinning and using an app called RPM. I'll put a link to that. You just set your iPhone on your turntable and start it going, and it will measure the revolutions per minute of your turntable. Now, mine was really close. Here is the screenshot of the results of mine. Now, as you can see, I'm really close to being exactly at 33 RPMs, so I'm not going to touch it. I could get into the bottom of the turntable and adjust the turntable speed, but I really think that's probably a mistake. It's going to be really hard to get much better than I'm at. I'm just going to make it worse, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to be happy with it. So everything's done. It's now time to give this its first test spin, and I'm going to be using an album from my favorite band in the entire world, Queen. So I put the album onto the platter, start it spinning, and I have a little anti-static brush that I run over, and then every 3 or 4 listenings, then I'll go ahead and I'll use a heavier cleaning. I'll use my anti-static gun, but you know, for the most part, this is enough in between listenings to just brush it off. I'll cue it up, and we'll give it a listen. Now, I'm going to not be able to allow you to hear the audio. And besides, you're listening to an iPhone recording of music playing that is then processed and uploaded and everything else like that. You're really not going to get anything out of that. I'm the one that's got to tell if it sounds good or if it doesn't. So, besides the YouTube rules that could possibly give me a strike, I'm going to have to mute the audio out. But suffice it to say, we're going to play through this song and a couple others, and we're going to see what we think. Now, aside from really enjoying this album, I've listened to it about a few million times. So I know this album, and that's one of the reasons I picked it, so I can really listen to it as I have so many times before. And I was listening to it, and it sounded great. It really did. But then Loser in the End came on, and that's the final track on side A, I think it is, and it took me by surprise. It took my breath away. I was stunned. I'd never heard it that way before. It was just so clear, and the bass, and I got to tell you, it caught me by surprise. I've heard the difference between a bad turntable and a good turntable, and I was like, yeah, that's much better. This took me by surprise. It sounded great. Now, there can be any number of reasons for that. I can't lay it all at the doorstep of the RT82, but the RT82 sure had something to do with it. And this album sounded fantastic on this turntable. It really, really did. So where does that leave us? I love the RT81. But without a doubt, no question, the RT82 is a much better turntable than the RT81. And having said that, if the 83 and the 84 and the 85 are even better still, you can't lose anywhere in the lineup. So pick the features that you like or need, pick the price range that fits your budget, and buy one of these Fluance turntables. Whether it's your first ever or you're just moving to something better, Fluance is the turntable for you. Well, there you have it, my Fluance RT82 turntable. It is up and running, and it sounds amazing. I was literally stunned at what I was hearing, okay? Normally, I can't pick up on some of that stuff, but in this case, I absolutely could hear a difference, and man, that thing is just so beautiful. I hope you loved it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss one of my music videos. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. I love to hear from you guys. It's the highlight of my day. Alright, that's going to do it for today. I'm going to get out of here. Until next time, this is Paul from Fat Guy Productions saying, be good.